we've got this idea of the anterior and posterior oblique slings. So closest to you, posterior oblique sling, which is fairly well described now and understood. So you've got the glute on one side, passing through the thoracolumbar fascia into the lat on the other side. And I'm trying to remember the exact anatomy of it, but they're on the same layer of fascia. Okay, so the thoracolumbar fascia has multiple different layers and lamina. If I remember, it's the superficial lamina of the posterior layer of the thoracolumbar fascia that those two muscles are on. Yep. So when one contracts, it pulls into the other one. And this is, again, it's not particularly new. I think way back in the early 1900s, there was descriptions of this. And it's also known as the smart spring of Margaria. But the idea is that with each step you take, you get a certain amount of elastic energy stored, and then you get the recoil on the next step.
This bloke's got a hell of a scowl going on, carrying that deer, hasn't he? Not happy at all.
That's it. He must have had a tough day. But so then the one that's not so well known is the anterior oblique sling. Yeah. And that ties in a bit more with the middle cross syndrome, although they both work synergistically, as you can imagine, because as one arm goes forwards, the opposite leg goes forwards. And so what that means is that relatively the other arm and leg are going backwards. So that's putting a stretch through that anterior oblique sling. And then you get the recoil, and then you get the stretch in the other anterior oblique sling. So this is a kind of mechanism for optimizing efficiency as you walk through a field of gravity. But if you are right-handed, let's say, or in fact, let's use this one, because this is showing from the right leg to the left arm. So if we said this person's left-handed, well, they're likely to facilitate the sling from the right leg up into the left arm, because that's what they're going to use mainly to throw things, to carry things, and so on. So if he was a tennis player and he's a left-handed tennis player, well, that's the sling that's going to be used the most, and therefore it's likely to become facilitated, and relatively you're going to get inhibition or deconditioning or weakness of the opposite sling. That then creates an asymmetry, and this is where it kind of links back in for the manual therapists out there that look at things like pelvic torsions. Well, if you've got an asymmetry in those slings, it's going to create a torsion in the pelvis. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can certainly go in and mobilize and manipulate the pelvis, but if we don't address the underlying musculature that's controlling the pelvic movements, then it's going to keep going back.